During a storm, she discovered the incredible truth about her Uber ride with a hidden mafia boss. Claire hurried through the downpour, her heart beating in sync with the rain slamming against the pavement. The chill of the evening seemed to seep not just through her coat but into her very bones. After another grueling shift at the hospital, she finally reached for her phone, fingers trembling slightly as she ordered an Uber. The walls of the ER still echoed in her mind, the screams, the racing silhouettes of panic intensity that haunted her day in and day out. Would she be there when her kids needed her? Could she afford to lose even one more ounce of energy to the abrasive world of endless hospital visits? As the car pulled up, she caught a glimpse of the driver leaning casually against the door. Marco offered a warm smile as she slid into the back seat, a brief moment of connection she desperately craved. "Tough night?" he asked, genuine concern in his eyes. Claire nodded, the weight of her exhaustion palpable. Hearing him share bits about his life, she found herself leaning into the conversation, his charisma a balm for her soul. Both of them were navigating through foggy paths, he with dreams of breaking away from family burdens, her struggling to provide a stable life for her children. In that cocoon of warmth, camaraderie blossomed, lighting a spark within the shadowy corners of her mind, but as the rain intensified, so did her anxiety about her children waiting at home. Her paycheck threatening to feel as thin as the way she held on to her dreams. Claire wanted to talk, to share the trepidation that settled within her stomach like a stone, but an instinctual gasp sliced through the mood. Another vehicle swerved dangerously close, a flash of headlights illuminating chaos as gang members flanked their car. Terror gripped her. Protect Marco? Or remember her kids? Her heart raced, thoughts colliding in a storm of confusion. Before she could react, Marco's expression shifted from calm to alarmed. He didn't seem frightened by the gritty intensity of the moment. Instead, he looked resolute. He turned to her, urgency lacing his voice. "Stay calm, Claire. We'll get through this." A part of her wanted to trust him, to believe that this stranger could lead them to safety. Yet another part screamed that she was jeopardizing everything she held dear, all for a man whose past remained a mystery. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." They escaped the aggressive block, her heart pounding heavier than before, questions spiraling in her head. Who was Marco, really? What shadowy world was he intertwined with? The adrenaline of evading danger faded, leaving behind only fear and curiosity. The weight of her own history loomed large. Could he be the key to uncovering secrets buried in her family's past? Unraveling the threads of their intertwined fates felt dangerously enticing. Just as she felt a flicker of resolve igniting her spirit, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She pulled it out, but what she read froze her in place. The message was urgent, cryptic, and chilling. Someone knew. Someone wanted her to know. The stakes skyrocketed, shadows creeping closer, and in that stormy darkness, the choices she had to make echoed in her mind. True strength was no longer a question of convenience, it was a test of loyalty, safety, and uncharted lands of her heart. Would she brave the storm within as thunder rumbled ominously overhead? Claire's thoughts tangled in a web of uncertainty as she processed the message on her phone. "You should have left well enough alone. This isn't just about you anymore." Each word seemed to etch deeper lines of worry on her forehead. She looked to Marco, who still steered the car adeptly through the streets slick with rain and danger. Did he understand the storm brewing inside her? "Are you all right?" Marco asked, his tone imbued with a mix of concern and alarm. The phrasing pushed her further inward. This stranger, guiding her through a moment of chaos, had already become more vital than any other person in her life. The truth gripped her. She hadn't felt this level of connection in years, yet the danger of trusting him lent a sharp edge to her thoughts. "I got a strange message," she replied, voice barely above a whisper. The gravity of her situation pressed down like an anchor. "Do you need to call someone?" "You can use my phone," he offered, genuine warmth underscoring his words. But Claire saw the tension in his jaw when he said it, a subtle chink in his understandable bravado. He too was caught in a current of unseen forces. "No. It's not that kind of message," she said, edging closer to a realization that was becoming compelling. What if she stopped being passive? "Are you in trouble?" Marco's voice dropped, urgency carving his features. In that moment, Claire felt the weight of responsibility dawn upon her. She was standing at a crossroads, and for once, the world was presenting her with an opportunity to reclaim her agency. I think I'm the trouble," she admitted, shaking her head. The words felt liberating, empowering even. Underneath her helplessness lay a wellspring of latent strength, emerging just like the storm around them. Claire was a mother, a healthcare worker. She had faced the chaos of life countless times. This could be another chance for her to dig deep and confront whatever forces lurked within her family's past. "Let me help you," Marco urged, his voice steady. For some reason, Claire believed him. As the rain battered angrily against the windshield, a surge of boldness began to rise within her. Deep-seated fears twisted in her chest, but she couldn't ignore the potential for discovery about herself, her past, and Marco. Each heartbeat pulsed with possibility. Weaving herself into this new reality entailed confronting not just the dangers ahead but the shadows that lurked in her psyche. "Okay, I want to know the truth about you, and your connection to this mess," Claire spoke with surprising firmness. There was a tremor beneath her skin but also an electrifying surge of clarity. Her heart hardened to the challenges ahead. That in a flash, Marco's expression shifted as if a mask slipped for a moment. "It's not that simple. You could get hurt just by asking." Yet there was a weight in his words, something ominous, an entanglement she needed to understand. "Then teach me. Show me how to navigate this world and my own fears." Each word felt like a commitment to herself, a leap into the unknown. Claire caught her breath, stepping into a realm undeniably fraught with stakes far beyond her previous existence. The rain roared, but Claire felt more alive than ever. The goodness of community and caution faded to the darkness of unresolved truths. She resolved to confront whatever lay ahead, surging forward with a newfound purpose. With Marco beside her, they could unearth secrets hidden beneath layers of deception. As the city glimmered through rain-soaked windows, she locked eyes with Marco, and for a fleeting moment, she saw not just his protective aura but also revealed fragments of vulnerability akin to hers. Together, they stood on the precipice of something monumental, yet fear lingered like a thread tethering her to the past as thunder reverberated ominously above. "Are you ready for this?" Marco asked, his tone wavering between challenge and encouragement. Claire inhaled deeply, heart pounding in anticipation. "I have to be." And as they drove further into the heart of uncertainty, she wondered what awaited them in this storm of revelations. Who would she become on the other side of chaos? Time held its breath, ready to unveil hidden truths in ways she had not yet begun to fathom. The chatter of raindrops on the roof became a backdrop of Claire's electrifying thoughts as she and Marco navigated through the slick streets. A fragile determination coiled around her instincts, urging her to peel back the layers of confusion surrounding her current reality. The city blurred by outside the window, a mosaic of lights and shadows, reflecting her tangled emotions. "What do you want to know exactly?" Marco asked, his voice steady but shadowed by uncertainty. She felt the weight of his gaze, pressing against her like the evening rain. It was a question that demanded clarity, and Claire realized it was time to articulate her nebulous thoughts. "I want to understand this," she gestured vaguely, encompassing their shared predicament. "What's at stake? And why you are involved?" Even she could feel the resoluteness simmering within her, kindling a fire to understand not just the chaos in the world but her own role in it. "For starters, I don't want you to get hurt," he replied, his tone shifting subtly. No one is as innocent as they appear. I've faced this before. The air felt electric, charged with potential as Claire recognized a distinct phase of introspection. Her past choices had often been shielded in uncertainty, permitting circumstances to dictate her narrative. Now, a quiet power surged within her. She wouldn't wait for fate to unfold, she would step forward. Then help me understand. If I choose to face the truth, I need all the risks laid out in front of me. Marco looked straight ahead, silent for a moment as if weighing her words. The tension in his jaw betrayed the danger lurking beneath the surface. All right. But I need to be clear, what you're asking for could change everything. The weight of their journey dawned on Claire. Change was already upon her. For too long, she had lingered in a whispering void, fearing confrontation and the intensity of truth. With each passing challenge, she built barriers around herself to shield her vulnerabilities, never fully engaging with the depths of her emotions. But the storm awakened something buried deep, a raw curiosity mixed with the stiffness of dread. Change is what I need, Claire declared, startling herself with the conviction in her own voice. I've spent my life running from it. As the rain hammered against the vehicle like protesters demanding attention, she found herself prodding beneath the surface of her own identity. Who did she really want to be? Marco spared her a quick glance, a flicker of respect bright in his eyes. Okay then. But this is not just about uncovering truths. It's about facing the monsters that created them. A monster I've been unaware of? Claire questioned, grappling with the horror that crashed upon her like waves. Each confession dug deeper into her psyche, exposing fears long hidden beneath layers of complacency. True discovery, she realized, required not just understanding the external chaos but wrestling with internal demons. His face hardened slightly as he considered his next words. Yes. The past is coming for both of us. I can guide you, but ultimately it's about what you choose to do with what you uncover. The moment will come when you will have to embrace your truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. The idea of facing her past echoed in her mind, a haunting refrain wrapped in potential for growth. Then teach me how to fight those monsters, Claire asserted, tethering her words to the spark of courage igniting her spirit. She could no longer ignite change with niceties, she needed skills, tools, and the strength to confront what lay ahead. As they rounded a corner, the chaos of the city pulsed with newfound intensity, mirroring her internal frenzy. There was a flicker of hope as Claire felt herself transforming. A budding confidence arose with the knowledge that the monsters couldn't chase her forever, they needed to be engaged and defeated. In that moment, a sudden thought struck her. What if I'm not just facing my past, but something larger, something that affects others too? What if it's not just about me? A shadow passed over Marco's expression. You're starting to connect the dots. The path to self-discovery was becoming clearer, yet Claire also sensed the increasing stakes. As the rain softened, revealing patches of the city glistening under the street lamps, she knew she was on the cusp of something monumental. Claire leaned forward, heart racing, ready to confront the chaos not just within her but beyond. With a resolve that pulsed through her very being, she repeated, I have to know the truth. And just then, she understood her fight was only beginning, a battle that would stretch beyond her own reflections and ripple through the lives of those she loved. But beyond solidifying her commitment, a question loomed large: who else was involved in this tangle of deceit? As they drove deeper into the night, she sensed more than just the storm, the whisper of orchestrated dangers closing in, urging her to prepare for what confrontations awaited her next. The streets glistened under the muted glows of the streetlights, their reflections merging with the last droplets of rain. Claire's pulse raced as she mentally prepared herself for the convergence of past and present, an intricate dance she knew she had to lead. There was no turning back, the storm had ignited a fire she could no longer deny. Tell me what I need to know, she instructed Marco, her voice steady, a stark contrast to the tempest whirling inside her. The air between them vibrated with unspoken truths. This was a moment etched in her memory, the marrow of her evolution. Marco took a deep breath, the silence stretching thick with weight. All right, he finally said, it starts with understanding who's in play. There's a lot of political tension in these streets. People you think you know are tangled up in matters far beyond casual relationships. Her heart thudded painfully against her chest. Claire was aware of the shadows creeping around her, but could she truly face the reality of hidden alliances, ulterior motives, and danger that ebbed and flowed just beneath the surface? "What has that got to do with me?" "It has everything to do with you," he replied, his eyes sharp and piercing as he engaged her gaze. "Your family has ties, perhaps unknowingly. The connections of the past can catch up to you in unexpected ways, Claire. Your pursuit of truth may rattle more than just your own world." The notion shook her. Could her family's decisions, her past, her very identity be entwined with unspoken threats? It was a chilling revelation, awakening a nascent fear she had buried under layers of denial. But alongside that fear, she felt an ember of determination to pry open doors she had long left locked. "There's something bigger than me at stake, then," she mused aloud, her thoughts crystallizing into clarity. "And I might have a role in this. My life has been so wrapped in my own trivial existence." "Trivial?" Marco interrupted, disbelief quirking his lips. "You've been hiding, Claire. But hiding won't shield you. You must know the truth of your own existence before it devours you." The words landed heavy on her conscience. Hiding. It was a label she had worn like a second skin, a protective cocoon from the external noise. Confronting the realities she had avoided needed to happen. But she was unprepared for what impact that might unleash. "Fine," she replied, the defiance in her voice emerging through the fear. "Teach me what I need to know. I can't keep running or pretending." "All right." Marco nodded, a hint of encouragement in his expression. "We'll begin with the signals and the silence. All conflicts come with clues. Key players in this scenario are lined up like chess pieces, and you, Claire, may hold the potential to upset the entire board." Claire's thoughts accelerated, churning with the implications. She felt a responsibility unfurl alongside her determination to confront both the looming threat and her own past. "Then let us play." They turned onto a narrower street, the rhythm of the city altering, becoming subdued as if watchful eyes monitored their every move. Claire's senses tightened, she felt as if layers of her reality were peeling away, exposing hidden elements that surrounded her. But as her focus sharpened, a flash of doubt flickered within her. What if the confrontation with these truths revealed something dark about herself? What if unearthing these connections meant dismantling the very foundation upon which her life stood? "Are you ready for real change?" Marco asked, probing deeper. "More than ever," she replied, though uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. It wasn't just about personal salvation, it was about grappling with darkness that might come to define her. As they pulled in front of a small, nondescript building, Claire took a breath, bracing herself against the unknown that awaited her. This new play she was weaving could reorder her life irrevocably. "We're here," Marco said, his voice low but forceful. "Inside are the answers you seek, but understand this, truth comes at a price. Are you prepared to pay it?" The gravity of his words echoed in her mind as she hunched over the steering wheel, adrenaline surging through her veins. Her fingers trembled slightly as they brushed against the door handle, the symbol of entry not just into a building but into the depths of a hidden truth. "Whatever it is, I won't shy away. This time, I'll face it head-on," Claire affirmed, her voice a whisper yet steady. The door creaked open as she stepped out into a world that felt equally thrilling and terrifying. It was now or never. Was she truly ready to unravel the life she had known, to embrace what lurked in the shadows? The question lingered heavily in the air, and just beyond the door, her destiny awaited. But as she took her first step inside, she pondered what if the monsters were not just her past but something insidious that dwelled in the darkness of the future. The air within the building was thick, almost suffocating. Claire's senses heightened as she navigated the dimly lit hallway, each step echoing her mounting trepidation. Marco walked ahead of her, a steady figure guiding her deeper into the heart of unknown territory. As they passed beneath a flickering light, she felt uncertainty pulse through her like electric current. What truths would reveal themselves within these walls? And what would they demand of her? The walls felt bare, stripped of comfort, yet each crack and creak seemed to resonate with trapped narratives begging to be uncovered. Claire's resolve hardened. She could no longer avoid the shadows. She had always perceived herself as an outsider, an observer of life, but now, she was on the brink of stepping into her own narrative. Here, Marco instructed as he halted in front of a closed door, his tone shifting to one of urgency. This is where the game truly begins. Remember, trust your instincts, they've kept you alive until now. She nodded, a mix of fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins. As Marco pushed the door open, she inhaled, steeling herself for whatever lay beyond. The room was dimly lit, filled with various forms of technology, the kind that hinted at hidden dealings and clandestine conversations. A long table surrounded by chairs sat at the center, each one embodying the potential for alliances or betrayals. Sit. Marco motioned toward one of the chairs, standing beside her like a guardian, albeit a hardened one. Claire eased herself into the chair, its cold surface a jarring contrast to her rising anxiety. Her gaze flitted around the room, scanning for any signs of danger or unexpected revelations. "What's waiting for me?" she finally asked, unable to suppress her impatience. "Knowledge," Marco replied simply, his expression inscrutable. "But knowledge without action is useless. You'll determine what that knowledge means for you." As if on cue, a figure appeared from the far end of the room, a man clad in shadows, his posture exuding authority. Claire's heart raced, she instinctively sensed the threat he posed, yet it was the gravity of his presence that both terrified and fascinated her. No introductions were necessary, the intent was palpable in the air thick with uncertainty. "Claire," the man said, his voice low and deliberate. "I have been watching you. Your desire for truth is admirable, but it puts you in precarious positions. You're not just a pawn in someone else's game, you could become a queen, or you could be taken off the board altogether." "What do you mean?" Claire clenched her fists, bracing for the storm of revelations. "The connections you seek to untangle run deep," he continued, undeterred. "Your family's history is tied to people who desire control and power. They will protect their interests by any means necessary. By probing into this, you risk placing yourself in their crosshairs." Claire felt the walls of her reality begin to narrow. The urging sense of urgency clashed against nagging doubt. "Then why should I pursue this?" "Because knowing the truth is your greatest weapon," he replied, leaning closer, his eyes piercing through the haze of uncertainty. "Your ignorance is their strength. If you want to change the game, you must first recognize the players." His assertion rippled through her, igniting a flicker of defiance. If ignorance was their strength, understanding could be her salvation. She considered her own life, how much time she had lost in the shadows, the mundane layers she had sheltered herself within. "How do I wield this weapon?" she questioned, the conviction in her voice intensifying. "By using your intelligence and intuition. You have potential you haven't even begun to realize. Let us unlock it." As they spoke, visions swirled in her mind, possibilities of action unfolding. The notion that she could redefine her narrative ignited a rush of adrenaline. Yet, fear loomed. What if she was unprepared to confront the reality that had existed long before her arrival? "What will it cost me?" Claire whispered, the weight of uncertainty threading into her resolve. "Everything," he answered bluntly, "but it will forge a path toward clarity." Marco moved to stand beside her, the silent support in this new battleground. Claire weighed the stakes as if they were objects in her hands, heavy and uncertain. The man's challenge echoed in her mind. Would she seize this chance, willingly stepping into her own storm? The fight within her swelled. She needed to know. "I choose to see the truth," she declared, her voice stronger than she felt. As the man offered a faint smirk of approval, an unsettling thought slid into her mind. Was she prepared for everything that led truth to its terrors? With determination intertwining with dread, Claire found herself poised before an arduous journey. The game was set, the players in motion. Now came the true test of her character. What if in this pursuit of truth, she unearthed pieces of herself she hadn't anticipated? As the darkness whispered promises of transformation, Claire braced herself. That uncharted territory beckoned. Would she emerge a victor, or would her quest unravel her very essence? The room seemed to contract around her with the weight of the man's words lingering in the cool air. Claire's heart thudded in her chest, each beat resonating with the enormity of her choice. In that moment, she wasn't merely stepping forward, she was diving headfirst into a whirlpool of intricacies that entwined her existence with the shadows of power and deception. Start by understanding your family's connections, the man commanded, his voice demanding but laced with an almost paternal concern. Dig into their past, and you'll unveil the present. Claire felt a sense of urgency crystallizing within her. Until now, her life had revolved around the trivialities of day-to-day existence. The idea that her lineage bore significant implications shifted something fundamental within her. She had always been passive, an observer watching others carve their paths, but that was no longer an option. An undeniable yearning surged, she needed to take control. What if I uncover something I can't handle? She asked, the uncertainty tightening her throat. It was a real concern not just for herself, but also for those who risk being dragged into her revelations. Calculate your risks, but remember, growth lives on the other side of discomfort, the shadowed man answered. His eyes didn't waver, maintaining their intense focus. You're stronger than you know. His words lingered, echoing within her as she navigated her thoughts. Could she truly be stronger? Intellectually, she understood the premise of empowerment, but integrating it into her core felt daunting. First, we'll project a clear plan, Marco interjected, pulling Claire back into the moment. It starts tonight. You'll need to employ discretion around family conversations and any historical inquiries. You'll find clues in the unlikeliest of places. The thought thrilled and terrified her in equal measure. She had often skated by in her interactions, opting for pleasantries rather than delving deep, but now the stakes exceeded her comfort. What if they catch on? She murmured, feeling the gravity of her naivete. What if I'm not ready? No one is ever fully ready, Marco replied. You'll learn as you go, adaptability is your ally. The traitors and allies will reveal themselves in time. All you need is the right mindset and a will to act. Drawing in a deliberate breath, Claire sought to anchor her resolve. What's the first step? Talk to your mother. She's the key. Understand her fears and regrets. They'll inform your strategy. The prospect of approaching her mother felt daunting, their conversations often skimmed over deeper, unsaid sentiments. But Marco's confidence ignited a flicker of courage. Perhaps it was true, to harness transparency, she needed to traverse unsettling territories. Begin with simple inquiries. Gauge her reactions, probe gently, Marco instructed. You'll know when to push further. Each word was a thread weaving a vision of something she had longed for from afar, insight into her identity and direction in a life that felt disjointed. This epiphany posed a moral dilemma, a battle between selfish ambition and familial loyalty. How do I balance the truth with the potential harm it might inflict? Claire asked, gnawing on her doubts. Sometimes, to protect, we must unravel, he replied solemnly. Knowledge is a double-edged sword. Use it wisely. But don't withhold it merely out of fear. As the conversation wound down, the man turned, slipping back into the concealment of shadows, leaving a sensation of unfinished business in his wake. Claire found herself basking in the urgency of her newfound mission. The room felt charged with a current of possibility as she gathered her breath. Tonight would be the night of change, she would reclaim not only her history but her destiny. The thought of unveiling hidden complexities exhilarated her, yet dread curled around her gut. With Marco's support in mind, she resolved to probe deeper. The very act held the power to redefine every relationship she held dear. How much was she willing to expose? As she sought clarity, another thought intruded. Was the truth truly worth the potentially devastating revelations it might unearth? The door shut behind the mysterious figure, leaving Claire with more questions than answers, her next moves swirling into a precarious dance. Would she confront the fears lurking in her past or choose to shield herself from the very truths that could empower her future? She started to rise from her chair, determination sparking like fire. As she prepared to leave the room, a fresh resolve anchored her. Whatever lay ahead, it was hers to navigate, and she would confront the storm, discovering truths that could either liberate or shackle her. Facing the door, Claire felt an exhilarating sense of control. But in the shadows of her mind, a question lingered: which pieces of her past would she need to sacrifice to conquer her future? In the dim light of her living room, Claire's fingers trembled slightly as she picked up her phone. Facing her mother felt like approaching the edge of an uncharted abyss. She could either leap forward, propelled by the promise of revelation, or retreat into the safety of ignorance. The decision to call was not merely a decision, it was an initiation into a deeper phase of her life. She selected her mother's contact, pausing to collect her breath. Would her inquiries trigger old wounds or unveil hidden truths? The weight of her lineage pressed against her chest, blurring the lines between curiosity and potential heartbreak. As the phone rang, each tone was a reminder that she was stepping into unknown territory. "Hello?" Her mother answered, her voice carrying that familiar warmth laced with a hint of caution. "Hi, Mom," Claire said, forcing herself to sound casual despite her racing heart. "I was wondering if we could talk. Maybe about Dad." The conversation starter was a calculated risk, but one that might open the door to deeper conversations. A pause stretched across the line. What brought this on? Claire focused on the faint sound of a clock ticking in the background, aligning her thoughts. "I've been thinking about him a lot lately. About his life before we came along. Your stories sometimes feel incomplete." The honesty in her tone was liberating, yet it carried a tinge of vulnerability. Her mother inhaled slowly. "He wasn't one to share much. It was a different time, Claire." "Maybe that's why it's important now," Claire pressed gently. "I want to understand him better, and by understanding him, I feel like I might understand myself too." A deeper silence followed, one that felt heavy with unspoken truths. "All right," her mother finally conceded. "What do you want to know?" This was at the moment Claire had been preparing for, albeit unknowingly. "Can you tell me about his family, the people he came from?" Claire's pulse quickened. "I've always felt like I missed a big part of who I am." For a moment, her mother's voice quivered. "It's complicated. Your grandfather had dealings. Let's just say our family didn't always walk the straight path." Claire's brain sparked with adrenaline. "What kind of dealings? Did Dad ever talk about them?" Her mother's reluctance was palpable, and Claire sensed this conversation would require tact and sensitivity. "Not directly. There were whispers, and he did his best to shield you," she said, her voice softer now. "It's better left in the past. Don't you think it's time for the truth to come out?" Claire pressed, the gravity of her mission crystallizing with each word. "It feels like we're living in a shadow, and it's suffocating." "I know," her mother replied quietly. "But some shadows are cast to protect us." The defensive tone struck Claire harder than she expected. It was a protective barrier, a refusal to confront the past. She weighed her options, grappling with the emotional implications of pushing further. "Mom, what if those shadows are keeping us from something greater? Maybe understanding leads to freedom." The words flowed with a fierce determination she hadn't known she possessed. "I just don't want to see you hurt, Claire. Knowing too much can change things." "I'm willing to take that risk," Claire declared, an unexpected firmness in her voice. In that moment, she felt a shift within herself, as if a part of her long buried was finally surfacing and demanding attention. "Let's take this slowly," her mother acquiesced, the hesitance in her tone slowly dissolving. "There are things I've buried, truths that hurt too deeply to face quickly. Your grandfather, well, he had connections. Dangerous ones. Dangerous ones. The phrase resonated, igniting a firestorm of questions in Claire's mind. What kind of life had her father lived before her existence rooted him in a suburban normality? With every revelation, Claire could feel her confidence blooming, her choice to confront the truth blossoming into something fierce and unstoppable. "Mom, I can handle the truth," Claire whispered, conviction filling her. "I need to know. We need to know." "Okay, but promise me you'll keep your guard up. Not everything is meant to be uncovered." "I promise," Claire said, though she couldn't help but wonder. How many truths could she confront before they began to suffocate her? As she hung up, the exhilaration of her breakthrough collided with looming dread. What lay ahead was a labyrinth of hidden histories, and she had only just scratched the surface. It would be a slow march through the shadows, but Claire realized she was no longer the passive observer of her own life. She was a participant in a family saga layered with myriad complexities. With renewed focus, she strategized her next steps. Delving into her father's past would require more than just conversations, it would demand research, possibly even confrontation with remnants of that dangerous world. And in the silent conclusion of the call, one distinct thought emerged: was she prepared for the darkness that awaited her? In the enveloping shadows of her newfound journey, pushing deeper into her family's legacy might unveil truths that were better left hidden. But amid that perilous uncertainty, there was a singular urgency building. The time had come to face her inheritance head-on. Would she brave the storm, or would she be swept away in its currents? The next morning, Claire awoke with a strange blend of anticipation and dread. The sun peeked through her curtains, casting a soft glow that felt almost dissonant against the weight of her recent revelations. Today wasn't just any day, it marked the beginning of her conscious pursuit for truth. She could no longer hover on the edges of her father's life, skimming its surface without diving deeper. Breakfast was a solitary affair. As she sipped her coffee, Claire's mind churned with possibility. What threads would she pull to unravel this family tapestry woven with secrets? The thought sent a shiver down her spine, but also ignited her curiosity. Each sip of coffee fueled her resolve. This was about understanding her heritage, her identity. She opened her laptop, the screen flickering to life with endless resources awaiting her inquiry. Claire focused first on her father's past. The man she'd known was a mixture of everyday normality and untold strife. She began typing family history alongside her father's name, but hesitated. There was more to explore that lay beneath familial anecdotes, the murky dealings her mother had only hinted at, the whispers of connections to something darker. The search proved fruitless, leading her to reassess her approach. It wasn't enough to rely on public records and dusty archives. Claire needed insight into the world her father had navigated before her existence reshaped him. Gripped by an innate drive, she reached for her phone. "Hey, Jenna," she greeted her friend, a local journalist whose knack for unearthing secrets ran parallel to Claire's burgeoning determination. "Can we talk? I need your help with something personal." Jenna's enthusiasm was immediate. "Of course. What do you need?" "I want to delve into my family history. I'm looking for connections, people, events, anything that might align with my father's past. I have a feeling there's more to him than any of us know." "Let us meet at the cafe," Jenna suggested, and Claire agreed, feeling a little spark of hope. This would not just be about her family, it would be an investigative journey. Arriving at the cafe, Claire was soon seated across from Jenna, who maintained an eager expression. Frenzied with excitement, Claire recounted her mother's revelations as they sipped their coffees. Jenna listened intently, her brow furrowing at the implications. Dangerous connections. Sounds thrilling. There's a history of organized crime here in town, especially with families who have roots in the past, Jenna mused, leaning back as she absorbed the possibilities. Claire felt a rush of adrenaline as she suppressed her rising dread. "Could you find something? I need to know if there's any truth to these connections." "Consider it done," Jenna replied, confidently pulling out her notepad. "I'll dig into local archives and see if anything stands out. But I can also give you a few contacts, people who might know more." Claire hesitated. Contacts? Who? Jenna smirked. Let's just say they've got their ear to the ground. Think of them as your informants into this world. The idea unnerved Claire. The potential of stepping into a realm where danger lurked in every shadow began to materialize in her mind. I have to tread carefully. I can't afford to get too close to any of that. Understandable, but sometimes danger feeds the best stories, Jenna replied, leaning closer, her intensity infectious. As the conversation flowed, Claire began to feel less like an intruder in her own family narrative and more like a detective in a personal mystery. She took in everything, the textures of Jenna's insights, the blend of thrill and hesitance in her own excitement. After they parted, Claire found herself wrestling with her thoughts. With each step deeper into her father's past, she understood more of her own identity. Yet, the thrill was undercut by a persistent anxiety. Would the truths she sought change who she was fundamentally? Or would they bring her face to face with the dangerous elements lurking in her lineage? As night fell, she sat in her dimly lit living room once more, laptop open and a glass of wine in hand. Each keystroke felt like a step into the abyss, but the grip of fear was lessening, replaced by determination. Claire knew she was approaching the crux of something far greater than just her family history. It was about a confrontation with the very fabric of her existence. She leaned back, reflecting on what her next steps should be. How would she navigate this dark world, and what price might she pay for that knowledge? The air thrummed with possibility, filling her room with a palpable tension. Just then, a notification pinged on her phone, a text message from Jenna. I've got a lead. Let's meet tomorrow. It might change everything. The words electrified Claire, propelling her forward. Tomorrow could unravel everything, and she was ready. But was she truly prepared for what awaited her? The moment of truth was drawing near, and she could feel the storm building around her, waiting to be faced. Claire woke with the light of dawn creeping around the edges of her curtains, yet sleep evaded her. The anticipation that lingered from Jenna's message weighed on her like a stone. This could be the day everything changed, the day she learned the truth buried in her father's past. For the first time, the looming uncertainty felt less like dread and more like a call to action. She was no longer merely a bystander in her own life, she was on the verge of uncovering secrets that could alter her very identity. As she prepared for the day, each routine task became imbued with purpose. Claire applied her makeup with more care than usual, staring into the mirror as if trying to peel back the layers of her own facade. Who was she really? Was she the girl defined by her father's shadow, or was she capable of carving out her own legacy, untainted by what had come before? Her laptop beckoned with the promise of discovery. She quickly reviewed her notes from yesterday's conversation with Jenna, her heart racing as she envisioned the contacts her friend had mentioned. They were a gateway into a world she had only glimpsed through murky anecdotes. But the thought of stepping into that realm caused her mind to dance with doubt. Could she handle the truth if it revealed her family's darker affiliations? Arriving at the cafe, the familiar buzz around her felt different today. The clinking of cups and the murmur of conversations faded into the background as Claire caught sight of Jenna. Her friend radiated excitement, and it sparked something inside Claire, a nascent thrill that beckoned her closer to the journey she had embarked upon. You're going to want to sit down for this, Jenna said, her voice low and conspiratorial as she slid into the booth across from Claire. What did you find out? Claire leaned in, urgent and expectant. Jenna pulled out a worn manila folder, her fingers trembling slightly as she opened it. I reached out to some of my contacts. You were right about your father. There's a lot more than family dinners and birthday parties. Claire felt a chill run down her spine as Jenna laid out photographs and documents spread over the table, each item a piece of a greater puzzle. This is a list of names connected to local organized crime. And look here. She pointed to a faded image. This is your dad, at a meeting with some serious players. Besides shock, Claire felt a swell of indignation rise within her. Why didn't he ever tell me? Not everything is easily shared, especially if it brings danger closer to home, Jenna replied, her tone serious. But this isn't just about your father. The threads connect to something bigger, an unresolved conflict that implicates your entire family. As Claire sifted through the documents, she thought of her mother's warnings and the whispers that had always surrounded her childhood. The ramifications were overwhelming. How much of her father's life was just a front? Had he been a part of something malicious, and had that tainted her own identity? Claire, this could unravel everything you thought you knew about your family, Jenna said, her eyes narrowing, gauging Claire's responses. Are you ready for that? Claire inhaled sharply, the weight of Jenna's question hanging heavily in the air. The answer was layered with uncertainty. She felt simultaneously compelled and frightened by the implications. I need to know. But how do I even begin to process this? By confronting it head-on, Jenna suggested, her voice confident. You can't shy away from what you've discovered. It's time to ask the tough questions, starting with your dad. The thought of confronting her father scared her, but it illuminated an undeniable truth: she could no longer avoid the reality of her lineage. The shame and questions she had previously buried deep within felt ready to surface. What if he denies everything? Jenna leaned closer, her intensity unbroken. Then you dig deeper. There are ways to gain more insight. You can also speak with those in the know, those who were part of your family's past. The choice lay heavy on Claire's shoulders, the path branching before her. Could she really set out to find answers while risking everything she had ever held dear? Would she emerge with clarity or even more chaos? As the coffee cooled on the table, the atmosphere was electric with potential futures. With each pulse of doubt, her determination grew. Claire realized that her journey wasn't just about the truth, it was about claiming her identity and redefining her narrative. She stood on the precipice of her discovery, ready to face whatever revelations lay ahead. Taking a breath to steady herself, she said, "Let us find out what really happened." Jenna's smile was equal parts admiration and apprehension. I'll make the calls, but be prepared for what may surface. We're entering unfamiliar territory. Claire nodded, resolute. Tomorrow's meeting could shatter her illusions or point her toward redemption. And with that thought, her heart raced, not just with fear but with the fire of burgeoning strength. Little did she know, the phone call that followed would set into motion a series of events that would shake her understanding of family to its core, leaving her questioning not just her past but her very future. The sun dipped low in the horizon as Claire stepped outside her home, the unsettling weight of anticipation still buzzing through her veins. Today was the day she had decided to face everything head-on. Armed with the documents Jenna had provided, she felt a flicker of defiance flickering within her like kindling waiting to ignite. Approaching the old family house, memories bombarded her, laughs shared over holiday dinners, the warmth of hugs exchanged, and the ire of whispered arguments hidden behind closed doors. The time had come to peel back those layers of nostalgia and confront the man who had long been a shadowy figure in her life. With a deep inhale, Claire knocked decisively. The sound echoed her resolve. Her mother answered with a mix of warmth and surprise that quickly morphed into concern. "Claire. Is everything all right? Can we talk about Dad?" The bluntness lined her words with an urgency that couldn't be ignored. They stepped into the living room, the quiet familiarity of the space feeling both comforting and suffocating. "You never ask about your father's past," her mother replied, crossing her arms with an instinctual defense. The very mention of their family's hidden history twisted Claire's stomach. "I know there's more I should know. I spoke to Jenna. I found something." Claire's voice held steady, cutting through the air thick with unspoken truths. The flicker of alarm in her mother's eyes wasn't unwarranted. Claire had glimpsed enough of the dark connections to sense the tangled web they were enmeshed in. "Some things, Claire, are better left untouched," her mother warned, but Claire's resolve hardened. "This is about understanding who I am," Claire insisted, unwavering. "I can't just hide from it anymore. I deserve to know the truth." The conviction radiating within her was a palpable force, and as she spoke, her heart raced with the thrill of reclaiming her agency. Her mother met her gaze, searching for the familiar softness that had always colored Claire's light brown eyes. "You don't know what you're asking for." What if I do? I can handle the risk. Please, Mom. I need to confront Dad. The brief silence that followed felt agonizing. It was the calm before a storm she could feel brewing on the horizon. Eventually, her mother sighed deeply, the weight of all that had been unspoken filling the air. We need to move slow. But if you're going to do this, I'll stand by your side. That unassuming promise was the anchor Claire hadn't realized she needed. For perhaps the first time, she felt acknowledged in her quest, acknowledged as the woman she was becoming, fierce, ready, and unwaveringly determined to connect the dots of her lineage. Days blurred into one another as Claire meticulously prepared for the confrontation ahead. Jenna had been invaluable in digging through intricate layers of history. Her research unveiled names and connections that tied her family to shadows of organized crime. But she steered clear of doubt. Every new piece of information solidified her purpose rather than deterred her. Finally, she stood before her father's door. Claire knocked, the sound echoing quietly in the emptiness of the house. The silence stretched before him, an invitation for honesty that hung in the air thick with tension. He answered, always reminiscent of the stoic presence she had known. Claire. What brings you here? She inhaled, finding the steadiness of her voice. I need to talk to you about your past. His brows furrowed. Now isn't the time for such discussions. You know that. But it's exactly the time, she insisted, pushing into the space of authority she had relinquished for too long. I know about your connections. I want to understand why they matter. The defensive posture he took spoke volumes, but rather than retreating, she found herself stepping closer, determined to unveil the truth. She laid out the documents, the photos that held their weight in hidden truths. This she started, voice trembling with gravity. This is who you were. It's time for us to confront it together. For a moment, Claire saw the flicker of recognition in her father's eyes, but it was swiftly eclipsed by a storm of emotions: guilt, fear, and perhaps something more. You don't know what you're digging into, Claire. It's dangerous. But isn't living in the shadows far riskier? The challenge was laid bare between them, charged with years of missed conversations and a desperate yearning for connection. Why wouldn't you tell me? His defenses crumbled just slightly as sorrow transformed his rigid exterior. To protect you. The world I was part of, it's unforgiving. I can choose for myself now, she asserted, grounded in her newfound power. And you've kept that choice away from me. His shoulders sank, a frail admission of defeat. I wanted to make sure you would never be tainted by that life. But it seems I underestimated your strength. The realization was profound. Her father hadn't merely kept her away from danger, he had robbed her of the ability to form her own identity. Embracing the boldness that coursed through her, Claire pressed further. Together, we can face this past, and I need you to guide me through it together. They stood on opposite sides of a chasm, and for the first time in years, Claire felt as if a bridge had begun to form between them. Her father's yield became evident, and Claire's heart swelled with unexpected warmth. This was not just unearthing a past, it was the formation of a stronger bond they desperately needed. All right, he said, his voice approaching surrender. Let's talk about it. A journey into shadows we'll endeavor together. With newfound determination swirling in her heart, Claire stepped confidently into the labyrinth of her family's history. She had ignited a new path, lit not by uncertainty but forged through the strength of family connection. As the sun set beyond the horizon, she felt the storms of the past lifting, heralding the victory of embracing truth, the junction that was nothing more than Claire's first step into reclaiming her narrative. And so, the time for new beginnings began, not just for Claire, but for the relationship she would regenerate with her father, reshaping the very fabric of their intertwined futures in a matter of courage, truth, and redemption. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it seriously makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, your input matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.